Hello, everyone, and welcome to Takeover Tuesday. My name is Karlie Belle, and once every Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month, I take over Sewing Machine Plus's YouTube channel and Facebook page with a live tutorial usually on my embroidery machine. So, hi, if you're new, welcome. If you're some of our friends that's been following us for a while, I'm so glad that you are back. I'm very excited about today's project. I have had this in the works for a while and very, very, very excited about it. So I have been using my embroidery machine to make beautiful things for years. And I love making things for babies, especially. That's what got me into embroidery in the first place, was having my little girls and wanted to make them all the precious things. And then I discovered quilting, and specifically how we can quilt on our embroidery machines. And so I am tackling a really big project for me, and that is to quilt a baby quilt entirely on my embroidery machine. So I'm excited to be here with you today and to share this project that I have been working on and show you my tips that I have been learning as I'm going through this process. So just quick shout out to, hey, Patty. I see Desiree, Kathy, Linda. I'm so glad y'all are here. Thanks for joining us. So just to tell you a little bit what's going on. I have a Brother Stellaire XJ2, beautiful sewing and embroidery machine, and it has a ginormous embroidery feel of 9.5 by 14. And when I got that machine, I had dreams of one day using it to quilt, and I'm making those dreams come true this week. Then a few years ago, I was introduced to something called clear blue tiles from a company I'm obsessed with called Karlie Belle. So here's the pretty box. So we're going to be talking about these today. This is the system that is going to allow us to get the look of edge to edge or end to end quilting that we usually see on a long arm machine, or we send off to a long armor to quilt our quilts for us. We're going to be doing it all here in my craft room that does not nearly have a smidge of space for a long arm machine. So we're using my embroidery machine, and this system is what makes it possible. So we're going to be talking about this. And then lastly, this is something that has been on my wish list for a while, and this is going to help with hooping the actual quilt. And that is the dime snap hoop monster. So this is a magnetic hoop that is specific for flatbed embroidery machines. I know you've probably heard of mighty hoops and magnetic hoops that are only capable of being used on industrial style machines like a multi-needle or free arm machine. And they don't make mighty hoops for flatbed machines. This is your magnetic hoop for flatbed machines, and this is the dime snap hoop monster. It comes in multiple sizes for all different brand machines so that the hoop fits. So I'm going to show you how I use this today. All right, I'm really excited about today. I got a lot of stuff to cover, so excuse me if I go fast, if I talk fast when I get nervous. So in the chat, I'm going to try and pay attention to it as much as possible to answer any questions that you have. But my goal today is to show you my quilt panel I'm starting with, because I'm a very, very, very beginner quilter, and I thought it would probably be a really good idea to start with a panel. And then I piece smaller projects, but this is the largest project I have done to date. So this is a panel I'll be showing you. So I'm going to show you my panel, how I went through the process of making my quilt sandwich. We're going to go over how to use the clear blue tiles and what the system is all about. We're going to go over how to hoop the quilt with that magnetic hoop I just showed you. And then we're going to put it on the embroidery machine. I'm going to show you my tips for getting that great look, and you'll see the actual stitch out happening. So let's start with the quilt panel. I am a very brand new aunt to my nephew. Watson was born in December. And when I went to go visit Watson for the first time and go see him, no, it was before that. It was when this is my husband's brother. They had like a guy diaper party or something like that. So I dropped off Chris at the diaper party. And of course, I found a quilt shop to go to in Lafayette. To waste some time, me and Elise went and played in the quilt shop while the boys were doing their diaper party. And when I walked in this quilt shop, I saw this and I was like, oh my God, I need this. And this would be great for me to for a beginner. So let me do this. So this is a Winnie the Pooh quilt panel. So I'm going to slowly raise it up so you could see the whole thing, but I got some pictures where you could see the whole thing. Oop, okay. And I thought this was so cute because the baby's nursery was Winnie the Pooh. And it has this beautiful fabric on the back of the 100-acre woods. So I got that for the backing. So I have this panel. I can't tell you the size of it though. I don't remember off the top of my head. And I have the backing fabric and I have my batting in between. So I laid all this out on the little bit of floor space that we have in my girls' playroom. And I made my quilt sandwich by putting the backing fabric face down. Then I sprayed some temporary spray adhesive and laid my batting down, smoothed it all out. I ironed everything before I did this as well. And then sprayed my spray adhesive again, and then laid my quilt panel on top of that and got everything nice and good. And I didn't do the best job with making sure I had enough fabric. So learn from my mistakes. Make sure that you have, I mean, I don't know if there's like a good go-to number, but I would say let's do 12 inches around all the way around. Now this is going to hoop that you're using to eventually hoop this entire thing, but you want to make sure you have a lot more of your backing fabric and your batting going around your quilt panel. So you see that I have some extra all around. So that is really important for this process so that you will be able to hoop it easily. I didn't do such a good job on one side, but I have an idea of how I'm going to extend it with some extra batting by sewing it on there so that I can hoop that part easily. Anywho, okay, so that is the panel, laid it out all on the ground. And something else that is important for this process is you are going to want to use some paper tape and actually tape the whole edge of the quilt panel to the batting. So you see that, if I don't know if you could tell, but I have it taped down. And I use the Belle embroidery tape for this. And I learned a really good lesson with this process because I've told people in the past they can use paper tape. And I personally have tried like regular medical grade paper tape that I've purchased from like Walmart. And they are not the same. And I learned that because there are sections where this is taped, where you're really going to stitch on top of it. And it gummed up my needle. And so took that off, got me a brand new roll of Belle embroidery tape, have absolutely no trouble with embroidering completely through the paper tape going all the way around. So lesson learned, Belle paper tape is better. But you don't, that the whole purpose of that is so that you want a very low tack tape so it doesn't gum up your needle. And that's exactly what it does. All right, so here is, let's see, let me pull up I wanted to show you a picture of the whole thing laid out. Give me a second. There we go. So here's a picture of it laying on the floor there, and you can see the backing fabric is face down. You can barely see it peeking out the bottom there. I have the batting and then the quilt panel laying on top. And you can see I do not have enough on that left hand side. So I am in the process of fixing that, but it's okay. I'm going to make it work. And so now that we have our quilt sandwich made and we have the spray adhesive, you can also use these like safety pins that have like they're bent on one side. I bought these for this project and then I ended up not using them. But if you want to be extra careful, you can get these safety pins to pin everything to make sure it stays in place. But I really didn't have any trouble with the spray adhesive, and then I kind of folded it and rolled it so that everything kind of stayed together. So if you want to be extra careful, use the safety pins. I didn't have a problem not using them to transfer it from the floor in my craft room on my craft table and back and forth to the machine. And once you start stitching, of course, then it's really going to stay together. So now let's talk about the process of the edge to edge quilting. And that is with the clear blue tiles. So let me switch you over and let me show you what I've done so far too, so you could really see. Like I can't tell where one bit ends and the other begins. Let's see, craft table. Okay, so here you could see the quilt here on my craft table, and let me lift this closer. So all of this side here is already quilted. So you could see it's a little bee design, and it goes all the way past the edge. You see where it stitches into the tape here. It goes past it, down, everywhere. I cannot tell where one begins and one ends, but I got it going almost all the way down on this side here. And what the whole goal is to separate your quilt into different hoopings, but make it to where those hoopings are right next to each other, to where you can't tell where one design ends and the next begins. They all look like it's all connected. Okay, so you need two things to achieve this. You need the clear blue tile system, and you need the designs. Both are offered from Kimberbell. When you get the clear blue tile system, it does come with, where's my book? It does come with some designs. Let me see if they got a page where they show you. I think it comes with all of these. So we have a winter, a spring, swirls, fall, summer, loops, and border loops and bitty blocks. So this is the bee design, and it comes with a USB stick with those on there for you. It's going to come with a ton of these little blue plastic tiles, and it's going to come with these water soluble pens to do your markings on. Okay, let me make the screen where I can see your comments. Okay. All right, sorry, I'm just checking out everything. So when you get the regular clear blue tile system, you get this user guide, you get that with instructions and everything, and you get a bunch of tiles, and it shows you all the different tiles that you get, as small as 2 by 2 inches, and as big as I think 8 by 10. Now, remember when I told you my hoop goes as big as 9.5 by 14? When I saw this, I was like, I know I'm going to use some of these little ones, but I really wish I had one as big as my biggest hoop. And so that is where they have 2 more clear blue tile sets. You're definitely going to want to start with the essential set, okay? Then, if you have a ginormous hoop, like on a Stellaire or an Altair or Meridian, you are going to want to also grab the first expansion set. This is going to have 8 by 14 is the largest tile. So that's what I used for the majority of my quilt, was 8 by 14. I also used some 6 by 14. So in this set, there's the longest one, I guess you could say, is 10. And the widest is 8. On this one, the widest is still 8, but now they have a 12 and a 14 length for all the sizes. And to confuse you even more, if you have a luminaire or the Solaris, I think, for Baby Lock, they have another expansion set. I think it's called expansion set 2. And that is going to have even larger tiles to fit that giant luminaire hoop, I think of 16 inches. So I don't have that set because I don't have a hoop that big, but that is available as well. So I just got the essential set and the first expansion set so that I can get those bigger tiles. Now, what is the point of these tiles? How are they used? You are going to create almost like a grid system on your quilt top, okay? And I'm going to say there's kind of 2 options. And I struggled with this when I was about to do this one because I didn't know what would look the best. And I think they have good picture examples in here. Okay, so do you see how this quilt has, like, it almost looks like, yeah, they look like 4 by 4 blocks. They have a yellow fabric, they have a blue fabric, a white fabric, but they all look like 4 by 4 blocks. You have the option to quilt just that 4 by 4 block, and you could, have fun with it and do a different quilting pattern in each of those to create a more custom look. Or you can use a variety of different sizes to create a system that just covers the whole thing from edge to edge. And that's what I'm doing on mine. But I'll show you where I thought about doing something different. And let's see, I think I needed this one and another one. But on my quilt, you may have noticed it has almost like a built-in border and built-in cornerstones going around the whole thing, right? So on this side, it looks really nice. I could have done a different quilting design pattern on my cornerstones. And then I could have used, let's see, I think it's 6 by 14 was the one I wanted. What's this one? 6 by 12. Okay. I could have used a tile that was like 6 inches to fit the border perfectly, to go here to here, and did a different design there, and then used my big old tile to do a design in the middle. So I almost did that, but where I decided against it was in this one corner. Do you see how the tree kind of goes out over the border and a little bit in that corner? So I thought it might look weird if I had this quilting design and it would kind of break up the tree if it was purposely different. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do the bees all the way across and get that edge to edge look. But that's the beauty of this system, is that you can do either or. It has literally every size possible. So if you have quilt blocks that are all different sizes, you can find a tile to fit each one and have some fun with making each block a different pattern, or alternating patterns or something like that. Or you have the ability to just have everything flow and go together. So I'm going to show you how I did this. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay your quilt out, and you can start in a corner. And for me, I wanted to do as much space as I could with my largest tile, okay, so that I can have the least amount of hoopings. And then when I got to the edges, I was like, okay, now I need a smaller tile just to cover this little bit of space, but it's all going to connect. So I started on this side here. So what I did was I put my tile to where it went beyond where the edge of my actual quilt is. So remember, I taped this down. I'm going to end up putting binding right, I'm going to end up cutting this quilt right where the panel printing ends and put binding. So I started in the top corner, and you could kind of see through the tile where I added some space on either, because I want the quilting to go over the edge and make sure that it goes all the way to the ends of the quilt. So I started here, and the way the tile is made, it has these marks on it. You see corner, middle, corner, middle, all these marks here. And then it has this arrow and a little box. Okay, where did I actually start quilting? So when I did the clear blue tiles, I started in the corner, and I had the same question. Should I start, like my first hooping, should I start in the middle or should I start in the corner? I ended up starting in the corner. I started over here actually. So this was my first hooping. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to that. This is my only experience with it. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to start here and go down. And then I went here and went down, and here and went down, and then working my way across. So I figured that logically that made sense to me, because that way, if anything of my hooping was off and I got to the end and I could see, my design is a little bit more this way than maybe it should have, then I can do my final hooping to where it's pushed over a smidge too, and everything will look right. Or if, it would leave a space in between the designs, I could shift my hooping a little bit. So that's my thought process from working in a corner and then working my way out. But like I said, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to that. I don't know if it's a big deal to start in the middle and then work your way out. So with the actual clear blue tile, I showed you all the marks. And that is when you use your Belle water-soluble marker that they gave you. I have one somewhere, but I don't know where I put it. And you are going to figure out where you want to start, lay it there, and then you are going to take your marker and draw on all of those points. So I don't know if you can see on my panel here. So I have a corner, middle, bottom corner, bottom, middle, other corner, middle, and then I did the crosshair. So I'm doing all of that while that is on there. I'm making sure I got it where I want. I use firm pressure, and then I go all around and make my marks. Lastly, there is a little empty box here, and the purpose of that box is for you to write what tile did you actually use. I used 8x14, so I literally wrote 8.14 right here to remind myself that's the size pattern I need. Okay, so Patty wants to know, did I use one size across the whole quilt? No, it didn't work out that way. It may work out that way in some projects, but that's the whole purpose of having all those multiple sizes so that you can make it work. So for instance, I told you I wanted to use this one as much as possible so I could have the least amount of hoopings. So I started with this, made my markings here. Now, when you get to your second spot, you want to line up this corner, this middle, and this bottom corner with the marks that you made when you had it right here. So they kind of go right together. And if you could see this one down here, because 4 of them met, you end up making almost like a cross right here. That's my 4 corners all met up here. And your middle marker should line up perfectly to where when I went and marked this one, it just ended up going right on top of where I already marked when my tile was here. Okay, so then you're going to mark, do all your things. Once you have that, move it over, mark, go all the way around. I think I got 4 across with this 8 by 14. And then I got here and I was like, I could use this one, but that would put me quilting a lot of batting over here. That's not necessary. So, and then, you know, the smaller your design, the less time stitching. So I'm like, well, I can shorten my stitch time and not quilt all of this batting over here that's not necessary by using a different tile. And I think that's when I used a 6 by 14, but I can't find that one right now. I need to I think I put it back in here. These are no, this might be it. Six by 14. This is the one I used. Okay, so I made my marks here. And like I said, instead of quilting a bunch of area over here that wasn't necessary, then I used a 6 by 14 here, and I made everything line up so that these corner marks, this middle and this corner lined up, and then I drew the rest of my marks. And so that way I was really only quilting right past the panel and just on top of my tape that I have here. So that's where the different sizes come into play. So I did this 8 by 14 as much as I could going across. I think I got 3 rows down, going down this way. And so then I also did 3 of these going down. So I have it here and then 1 more. Then when I got to the absolute bottom of the quilt, that's when I used a whole nother size tile here. So when I got to the bottom of the doing 3 rows of the 6 by 14, and I did 3 rows down of the 8 by 14, you see the space here was much smaller. And so I did, I think it actually goes here. This is the bottom, if I look at my marks. Okay, so I had this much space here, and I could see my marks. I did a 4 by 10 hoop here, and I did a 4 by 14 hoop here. All right, Linda wants to know, I'm really wondering about background quilting on a bench pillow. If you do 7 pieces and put them together, should I not do the background quilting first after putting all the separate pieces together? So for a bench pillow, you have some options. All the bench pillows I've made, I've actually done my background quilting in the hoop as I'm embroidering it. So like for instance, the Kimber Belle bench pillows, those have some beautiful applique work on it. The first step of those is you create the block in the hoop, you put your batting, you put your background fabric, and then you actually stitch the background quilting pattern and you stitch your applique on top of it. So when you're done, you cut out that block and then you put those 7 blocks together and they already all have their custom background quilting on it. Now, if you're making a traditional, just let me get my samples of quilts done in my machine. So here's an example of that. This is something I made. This is not Kimber Belle, but we made each one of these blocks in the hoop. So this tree was done in the hoop. And I don't know if you could tell, you see that echo quilting? That was done with the applique, all done in the hoop with batting underneath it. And then I cut out that block and I just pieced them all together because it was getting turned into a pillow. I didn't need the back of it quilted. Or if you could do stitch in the ditch when you're done and have your pretty quilting just on the front. And let's see, I did one like that. Where is it? Is it this one? So this one, same pattern, same quilting, but I didn't make this one a pillow, and I just did stitch in the ditch on the back. This is a table runner instead. So that's for the bench pillows. Now, if you are doing just traditional quilting by piecing and you make a pillow, you can piece everything together, whether on your sewing machine, or you can also piece on an embroidery machine, and then make your quilt sandwich and do the all over quilting on it when it's done. So it's really depends on the project and it's up to you, but that's the beauty of it. You can do it all kinds of ways. All right, Kathy says, I'm curious, why did you embroider so far over the edge into the batting, especially when you know you're going to cut that part off? I didn't go that far really. I tried to just go right beyond maybe an inch. I went beyond. I thought it would be better, instead of trying to make my tile line up right here and stop quilting there, I thought it would be better to overlap onto the batting by an inch or so, just to make sure it goes to the edge. That's a preference. I could say that's probably a personal preference. If you want to make your tile to where it ends right where you know you're going to cut your quilt, you can definitely do that as well. Just keep in mind, when you look at the quilting design, it may not have like a nice sharp edge on the design. Like you see, like there's space. It kind of goes and goes and goes, and they got some of the quilting that actually goes to that edge. So I wanted the look of it continuous and a little bit beyond the edge of the quilt, but definitely a personal preference. If you want to make your marks to where it stops right on the edge of your front panel, by all means, you can definitely do that. All right, Linda. But when done, would the separate pieces not look cut up if the background is the same piece for all 7 pieces? One block might, yeah. So Linda, what you're talking about, if you did the quilting, that is a case where it doesn't look continuous. That is a case where it looks custom per block. So like for this one, you see the echo goes around the tree and goes to the edge of my block. And now this one has echo quilting and it goes to the edge of my block. It does not look continuous. Okay. This system, I think, only works well when you actually want each block to look different. Let me find another example. Okay, let's see. This is a project where this block was made and it has the background quilting already built in, but you see where I join doesn't necessarily line up perfectly, and that's probably because I'm not the best at piecing it together. But depending on the design, this one was kind of made to look continuous if you piece it together well. I didn't do too bad, huh? But you could see these kind of diamonds formed along these edges where they meet up. So they do kind of meet. It all depends on the actual design. And then this one had specific border quilting. So you could see that ribbon. That's only for the border. And then the cornerstone had specific quilting just for that little 2x2 piece. Okay. All right, back to this quilt. I want it to where it looks continuous. So even if I would have pieced this together, I would have just made my front panel. Oh, I'm sorry, my dog is crying. Go, go. I would have just pieced all my front panel together, made my quilt sandwich, and then do the all over quilting all over. versus trying to do the batting and the background quilting in each block on the embroidery machine, if that makes sense. All right. So does that make sense with the clear blue tiles and making your marks and lining up the next tile and using different sizes to create a almost like a grid system, to where even if they're different sizes, like down here, I can see this is the bottom of my 8x14. Here's the bottom marks for my 6x14. Now let me find the blocks I used. I did 4x14 here, to where it just went pretty much on the selvage and right pass. I did this, I could fit 3 of them that way, and I had this one little piece left where that would have been way too much. So I was like, let me find a different one. So I did 4x10 inches instead. And that is hiding somewhere here. So I did this one. And so that created a series of markings that fit my space, but using all different sizes. But the beauty of it is, even though these are all different sizes, and I'm going to hoop them specific to the markings for that section, when it's done, you are not going to be able to tell where those quilting designs began and ended. If you look closely, here's the marking for my 6x14, and here's the marking for my 6x14. So technically this is 2 different hoopings here, and this is the line pretty much where those 2 different hoopings happened, and you really cannot tell. It's very forgiving on where those 2 hoopings met up. Okay, so lots of options with the tiles. All right, does Kimber Belle Designs have locking stitches at the start and end of each hooping? Yes. And when we get to the actual machine, I'm going to show you what I do. The machine starts in one corner and it's absolutely continuous until it gets to the bottom, wherever it ends. Like here, it ends on this one. I think this one ended here on this B. And so there are no jump stitches. And what I do is, when I'm on my first stitch, I pull the bobbin thread up. I lower my needle, pull the bobbin thread up so that I don't create a knot on the back. And then when it's done stitching, there will be just a little tail, but with the locking stitch, and I can go and trim that after. Okay, so that you shouldn't have any nests or jumps or anything happening on the back. The back should look just as pretty as the front. And I know it's a little bit hard to tell, but you can see my bees a little bit there. Okay. Why did I tape instead of using a thread-based edge before starting quilting? You can definitely do that. In the Kimber Belle guidebook that comes with the clear blue tiles, they recommended taping. But the main part of it is so that you, when your presser foot is gliding, because you are essentially quilting off the edge, that it doesn't pick up that fabric when it comes back. So it's just to make a nice smooth surface right here. All right, here's some more from the guidebook that's a little bit clearer. It tells you exactly where to mark. And then it shows you all the different tiles that can even fit inside of one hoop. So this is a 6x10 hoop, but these are all the tiles that can fit inside of it. It gives you a lovely table so that you can say all your hoops and what's the actual embroidery field inside that hoop, and then all your clear blue tiles that fit in that hoop. So you kind of have your own guide. And see here, this is where they go wrong side of fabric, put your batting, and your quilt top, and they suggest taping. Secure it with Kimberbell tape. Place tape 1/8 of an inch within quilt top edges around the perimeter. This will keep the presser foot from catching the fabric. A zigzag stitch works as well. So yes, by all means, whatever your personal preference is. And here's just a picture of some examples. So here's a quilt where they did the all over quilting across the whole thing after it was pieced together. Here is one where they did custom. So you see the little corner has this, and the borders have this, and this tree block has its own. This one has its own. The house block has one with like the same kind of swirls but flowers too. So you see like each block has its own quilting, so it kind of changes it up. So that's the beauty of the system, is that you can do either or. But it ends up being all over the whole thing, but it could have a more custom look or just an endless look. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to tell you. Ooh, we're running low on time too, so let's get moving. And just so you know, because this is a lot of material covered in this class, and I'm hoping to actually continue with it, and I might go live when I'm done or doing some more of the quilting in the hoop, and then definitely like when I cut it and I add the binding within my own channel and Facebook group. So you can find all of my tutorials on my website, KarlieBelle.com. I have a live every month called Sip and Stitch, where we do a project from start to finish. And I also have a monthly membership group where we do Zoom classes every month. So it's a lot more interactive and a lot more support. So I just wanted to tell you all that in case you had questions. I have a contact me form on my website, KarlieBelle.com. And then on Facebook, you can also message me if you have any questions about this after the video, or if you like watching the replay or something like that. I just wanted to tell you about it. All right. Is the same quilt pattern resized to fit inside the different tiles? So yes, when you either use the designs that came with the clear blue tiles, or you purchase some on Kimberbell's website, there's going to be a file for every size tile. That's one of the reasons why you want to write in your markings what size tile you use, so you know what size design to upload on your machine. So that, and they are all made to where no resizing is needed. They're going to have the file to fit perfectly in the tile that you used for your markings, so that even when I had two different size tiles here, the design is continuous and you cannot tell. Nothing was resized. It's all the same size and looks continuous. Does that make sense? So I'll show you more of the design when we get over to the machine. So now let's move on to hooping. So I've done a bit of this. I'm going to turn this to the side too, because the hoop is so big, it's bigger than what the camera can see. All right, where was I? I did this one, this one, this one. I did down the Eeyore. Okay, so I'm going to start back up at the top here, and I'll do 1, 2, 3. I got 3 hoopings going down, and then I got my final row on the outside here. So this is where I'm going to focus right now. So I'm going to lay all this nice and flat, and I'm going to focus on my crosshairs I have for this particular hooping. So I hope you can see that. Now this has been a little tricky for me, but I think I've gotten the hang of it. The more you play with this, the better you're going to get. So with this is the dime snap hoop monster. And this is the 9.5 by 14 size, but it comes in all different kinds of sizes. When you get this, they don't have these tapes on here. You're going to put this on here. So what they tell you to do is hoop a piece of cutaway stabilizer, put it on your machine. They give you a design to stitch, and then while this is actually in the hoop, so pretend I just stitched this, while that is in the hoop, it helps you figure out, you know, right where to put your stickers. Make sure your zeros line up here and here. And then I stuck those on there. So that gives you a really nice guide of where to put your kind of rulers here on the side. And that is helpful for using this hoop. And this kind of plastic cardboard, this is great for storing your hoop when you're not using it. But also it helps me with hooping. So make sure you don't throw this away, you keep it. It's important for storage, and it's going to help you with hooping. So I'm going to put both these pieces to the side. And as with any magnet, I try to be aware of not putting, so this part is just metal, this part is magnet. I try to be aware of not putting this next to my cell phone or next to my computer. So I do that with all of my magnetic hoops just to be safe. All right, I am going to put the bottom hoop underneath my quilt sandwich. And this is a feeling process. So I can feel the edge of the hoop. I could feel it here. And what I do is I play around with it. Because I'm using a big design, I don't have a lot of wiggle room to move my design within my hoop once I get to my machine to make sure my crosshair lines up. When you're using a smaller design in a big hoop, it's easy. You can move it around anywhere. But because this one is 14 tall, I really have to have it close to the center this way of my hoop. I can move it a smidge, but not a ton. So what I'm doing is I'm just feeling that the space looks good. Okay. Then I'm going to take my plastic piece, and you can either, you know, do it like this to where you're putting your hoop and going down, or I prefer it like this where I'm starting here, because this is where the arm of my hoop is. So I'm starting here and laying down that way. And I'm feeling where my sides are. And I can see my line is a little bit below my zero. So I'm going to pull this up a little bit. All right, that looks good. And let me move these. And you just want to make sure everything's kind of pulled and no wrinkles. Okay. Now I've gotten this, and this is kind of where I play with things, make sure it's tight. I could see my zero and my blue line. Looks good. Now I can see through my clear plastic. I know y'all probably can't, but I'm just going to make some little adjustments where that blue line looks like it's going across. Now this blue line is way off, and this is probably too close to here. So y'all see how far away the edge of this design is from here to how close it is here. I have wiggle room to move this one, but I don't think I have that much wiggle room. So I'm going to simply slide my hoop down a little bit underneath. I just pulled it this way. All right. Again, lay my plastic. And the underneath of this has some tabs. Those are the ones I like on the outside. I'm sorry if the camera's not getting everything. Okay, there. Looks like the zero is lined up, and now I'm pulling everything taut, and I could see my blue line going across, and I want it to get as close as I can to that other side. And I can't see. I'm still way too close. There we go. So depending on your machine and the design you're using, all those things, this process can be where I'm being way too tedious about it and I could just snap it and go to my machine. If you have a machine with a camera, you could literally scan the hoop and see your design and make sure it goes right where you want it to. I have some wiggle room with my machine, so I can do that, but I was getting pretty good at getting things right where it should be. So I was like, let me see if I could do it again. But it all depends on your machine and the capabilities that it has on whether or not, you need to, this doesn't need to be perfect. I could tell you that it definitely has um, some, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, grace, where you really can't tell where the designs are, even if I don't line up things perfectly. So I'm gonna go with this, and now I'm pulling that out, and boom, now it's snapped. And like I said, even if things are crooked in there, I have that 2-point positioning system on my Stellaire that I can make sure that things are hooped right. Still a little bit close here, but you can pull and tug. You want to make sure you don't warp it too much though when you're doing that. But let's start here and see if this is going to work on my machine. So this is my piece. I have all of this stuff over here. Oh yeah, like Lisa, she said, well, unless the quilt police are scrutinizing. No, there are no quilt police in my house, and my little baby nephew, his house either. So I got all of this material here. So one option, and this is something that came with the essentials set, is these are some cute slap bracelets. I had these as a kid. This helps contain all this extra material you have. So what you can do is roll it up. Like so. I got it rolled. And then you can use this to kind of hold it out of the way. So I'm just going to let this part sit on my lap while I'm by my machine. All this part is going to hang off. But now this can go in my machine like this, and this in the hoop, and this is okay to lay over the embroidery arm. But you could play with these slap bracelets to kind of contain things and keep them where you want. Okay. Oh, Kathy's bringing up a good point. I'm showing y'all this magnetic hoop. You don't have to have a magnetic hoop to do this. You can do this with your plain old hoops that come with your machine. Now, this is not the hoop from my Stellaire, but with your plain old embroidery hoops, what you would do is loosen it up as much as possible, because you are hooping through 3 things. Put this underneath. Then take your top hoop and snap in the grid that goes with it. And then you kind of slide things around until your grid lines up with those, and then press it down. So yes, thank you so much for reminding me of that, Kathy. You don't have to use a magnetic hoop. You can use your regular hoops. I did that with this project. I did this all with the regular hoops when I did the all over quilting, and that grid really helps you with lining up and make sure you have it hooped in the right spot, especially on machines that don't have cameras and 2-point positioning systems. The grid on the hoop is very, very helpful. Okay, sorry, Andrew. I know I'm going way over time with today's class. Let me move you to my Sony. Okay, so that's the machine. I'm sorry the lighting is not working well in this corner over here. But here is my Brother Stellaire. And I have already wireless design. So I want to show you something. And hopefully you can see it. Okay. Let's see if I could do this without getting you car sick. I don't know. But you see these 4 designs here. These are all of my bee quilting designs, and this one is for the 8x14 tile. This is for the 6x14 tile. This is for the 4x14 tile, and this one's for the 4x10 tile. So when you purchase or open up your background quilting designs, you'll see they have a design for every tile size used, and they're all to where the bees are actually the same size, looks continuous, no resizing needed. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm doing an 8x14. I'm going to pick my 8x14 design, and there it is. Okay. The other thing is I am using this white thread for my top and bottom. So you want to wind a bobbin with your thread color of choice. I like it to where the top and bottom are the same. Now I am using white, but I thought it would be best to not use my 90 weight bobbin thread and use my 40 weight embroidery thread to be safe. Now, if you have experience with using the 90 weight, I'm having trouble here, the 90 weight embroidery bobbin thread with your quilting, let me know, because I was like, I'm going to use my 40 weight just to be safe. But like, especially if you're using a pink color or a blue color for your quilting, you're going to want to go ahead and wind a bobbin for your bottom quilting, the underneath quilting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then load it. You are going to want to start with a nice, make sure you're starting with a full bobbin before you're starting, because like, where was my other one? I had it. Oh, here it is. I'm going to save this one. So like this one was not full anymore, but I didn't know if I had enough to get a whole 8x14 block done. So I'm going to use this for one of those smaller 4-inch blocks, just to be safe. If you do run out of bobbin thread in the middle of a design, it's not the end of the world. But you are going to want to make sure you back up and overlap stitches when you restart your design. Okay, so that is done. And sorry, I can't see your comments while I'm over here as well. So I just wanted to warn you of that. All right, and now I am lighting on this ginormous hoop. When working with these big hoops, you want to make sure that you have a ton of space around your design. I have a window back here, and there's like, what, 4 inches of space beyond. So I double checked and made sure my hoop doesn't touch my window. It touches my curtains a little bit, but not my window. Then spread out everything, and I could, let me hit set and embroidery. Okay, now I recognize that I put this giant hoop on, so it just moved my arm over, and now this is the center of my embroidery hoop, and I could see it does not line up with my lines. So the first thing I could do is go to layout and move, and I can actually touch my design. Try to get it where it is. That's close. Okay, and then I'm gonna put my laser on so I can actually see. And I have some arrow buttons. See, that's as far down as I can go. Okay, I can get it in the middle, but this is where my laser is. It's like barely 1/4 of an inch away from my center. It's like too high. So some options would be to pull or to just slightly, rehoop and pull it forward. So this is where I've gone back and forth a few times. And I think it's because I'm using such a big tile with my design, where I don't have a ton of wiggle room to move things in the hoop. So that's where I think having the grid would be super helpful. So I'm gonna do this. I just ever so slightly need to be higher. Okay, oops, sorry, hitting the camera. All right, make sure this is here. Okay, that should be good. And change the camera. All right, let me check. All right. So yeah, Lana asks, can you even use 90 weight in the bobbin? My machine throws a fit when you try to use something else. Or does she throw, your machine throws a fit when you use 90? I think I've actually done one of my little pillow quilting projects. I didn't change the bobbin. I think I kept using my embroidery bobbin thread and I didn't have any trouble. But I figured for this, I want to be safe and make sure. Okay, now it's way different. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the right thing. Okay. So that looks spot on, but I think my hooping is crooked, so that's when I can use my 2-point positioning system. It makes me move back to the middle anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna check it from left to right, and what I could do is it'll check it and make sure my line is straight across, and it will slightly rotate it for me if my line is not straight across. I can go up and down as well. Like there's options on where you want to move it. So I'm going to go right to the edge in the middle. Okay, so I have my laser right in the middle of the left edge. I can tell it's right on my line and looks good. Okay, now I'm gonna hit next and it's gonna move straight across and I can see, oh, it's way off, like my line is way up here. And so now I move my laser where it's in the middle of this line, there, and I hit set. Oh, pattern, it doesn't want to fit in my hoop. It's too crooked. All right, let's try this one more time. I was supposed to show you how easy this is. I am failing in that at this moment. Come on, mouse. There we go. Let me check. Okay. Yeah, Joanne's like, oh, it happens to the best of us. Yes. Never fails, especially when I'm live. This loves to happen. I was doing so good with this, guys. I did like 9 hooping so far, and my last ones were good. Okay, so it was a little too crooked. Okay. This looks straight. Might still be too close here. Okay, this one's on the money. This one's good. All right, that looks pretty. My mouse doesn't work unless it's on the batting. Let's see, Joanne, I think you are a representative for Dime. You're probably a lot better at using these hoops than I do. So please tell us if you have any pointers. I would love to hear them, even though I can't see the comments right now. But everyone else, I'm sure, would love to hear them. Okay, so I'm going to hit move. I'm putting my thing in the middle. It moves so slow. One more, maybe two more. That's it. Okay, this is it. All right, that's in the center. I'm going to go to my trace feature, and I'm just going to go all around the hoop, and I'm going to watch my laser. So here I go. Boom, right on that line. I'm going to go straight across this way. A little bit off of that line. That's okay. Let's see. Now let's go up. Right on that line. I'm going to go all the way down. Okay. This is as close as I'm going to get today. And I am happy with that because it is forgiving. So I have centered my design. It is uploaded. My hoop is in. Nothing's in my way. Now I'm going to go to the needle plus minus button, and I'm going to hit +1. That is going to move me to the actual first stitch of this design. And I am going to thread my needle. Oops. All right, my needle's threaded. I'm gonna make it go through under the presser foot. Okay, I'm gonna hit the needle down button and back up and pull my bobbin thread up. And now I'm gonna hold that. And I'm gonna lower my presser foot and I'm gonna start stitching. Make sure nothing is underneath your hoop on accident. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna go. Okay, so now it's gonna stitch the quilting all over. Make sure nothing's in the way. When I did that whole trace playing with the corners, that's when I know my hoop's not gonna bump into anything. This takes 11 minutes to stitch out. So I'm gonna see if I can look at the comments while that is stitching. Ooh, Becky's here. Printed templates. Do they have printed templates for Belle designs, Becky? And let's see, Amazing Mama, do I always do the needle up, down, and hold the thread? I do. I'm just trying to prevent that little nest on the back from when it starts stitching. Yeah, Marina says that +1 stitch tip definitely helps you get situated before the machine starts. Yeah, because if I would have just put the hoop on and hit start, then it would have moved, right? So I always like to do that +1 so then I don't, especially when you're working with something so bulky that it doesn't surprise you because that happens to me sometimes where it's like, oh, and I jolt or something's not right. Or I forgot to tape my fabric down or something like that. I like to get in the position where it is actually going to start before it starts to stitch. Anne says my next machine will be the Stellaire. Def, I love this machine, and it's so nice. Oh, okay. Becky's tip is she quote unquote prints the Belle design by stitching it on cutaway stabilizer. Okay, so I would, just like I hooped the stabilizer to figure out my center point of my hoop and put my tape, I would hoop stabilizer and stitch out the actual background quilting design. And then you would make all your marks and everything, and then lay that piece down before you hoop. Am I understanding you right, Becky? Hard to explain without showing it, but it's best to drop the hoop in place after pressing it against the left edge. Yeah, so I was pressing it here. I had the plastic bit in between and then kind of letting it fall, but holding in place and pulling things taut. I definitely like hooping, attaching the hoop from this side best, because I find it always pulls my fabric. And that's what kept getting me to where I was a little too close to the hoop when it was done. Woo. All right, Catherine wants to know, what hoop am I using with the Stellaire? I'm using the Dime Monster, Snap Hoop Monster. I never know if I'm saying it the right way. But it's a magnetic hoop offered by Dime, and it can fit. They have all different sizes, and they have them available for different machines. All right, yeah, Joanne Banco's a big fan of templates too. I am going to try that. I'm just getting into quilting, but with embroidery and like placement on shirts and bags and all that stuff, yes, I print my design from Embrilliance every single time. That helps so much. So that makes perfect sense to, in a sense, make a template for the quilting design as well. Yeah, and Joanne says the magnetic hoops of that type take some getting used to by the nature of the design. Yeah, I thought I was getting good. I did 9 hoopings. Tammy wants to know what size of the hoop. It is 9.5 by 14, which is the largest embroidery field on my Brother Stellaire. Yay, Vicky! I'm so excited. I am super. This is my first. Well, you know, it's not a real quilt because it's a panel, but this is real for me. I'm very excited about it, and I'm excited to give it to my new baby nephew. So next up is actual real quilting and piecing, because all the other projects I've done, and like the ones that I showed on my I was showing earlier, I don't know if you saw, like all of these, they're all perfectly pieced from Karlie Belle Me Time. That's all of these. Like these are all done on the embroidery machine, pretty much, except for the piecing together, the big blocks. But like all of this is all done on the embroidery machine. So I'm excited to try quilting where I'm actually piecing these together on the sewing machine. Let's see, this one. This is what I designed. This one. This is from my 2024 Sip and Stitch Holiday Workshop. We made that in there. But all of this was done on the embroidery machine. And I did quilt this myself, like on the sewing machine, just like pre-quilted this. And then this was done on the embroidery machine, and then added the binding. So that's my little bit of quilting I've gotten into, but I'm excited to do a big quilt. Thank you. All right. Oh, Kathy says she's working on the Perfectly piece from December. I love all those boxes. Oh, thank you, Marina. I'm glad you had fun at the holiday workshop. So this is still going. Everything looks good. Just checking on it. I think Dime also makes something. So you see, like I have all this mess going on around here. Dime makes something that actually holds all the corners or pieces of your quilt. That might be something I need to invest in if I do anything bigger than this, definitely. Usually I'm sitting here and this is on my lap, but I'm standing going back and forth. So I'm just trying to make sure this is supported and not hanging down. But they do have some things out there, some contraptions to help hold your quilts out the way. Now, because mine is right by a window, I probably could just do a string with some clips and hold up this edge. I think it's this edge that I need some more support with. But I could probably make a contraption. Yes, Becky knows the weightless quilter. You need it to prevent drag on the embroidery arm. Yes. So I think that might be my next investment. So I think all of this is going well. Like this is staying out the way. This is staying out the way. This is my area that needs support right now. Let's see. Yes, Dime makes great contraptions. And the desktop version works great. Linda says, so Steady has clips too. Okay, I have to look into those. So it is coming along well. One thing Kimber Belle did mention in the instructions for the clear blue tiles is to turn off your thread cutter on your machine. And I did that in some of my first few hoopings, but I find that didn't necessarily matter because there are no jump stitches in this design. But maybe there are other quilting designs that have jump stitches in them, and that you're going to want to turn those off. So I think it depends on the design, on the background quilting design. All right. I think we only got about 2 more minutes left. Big shout out to Andrew for working overtime on this video today. We appreciate you over at Sewing Machines Plus. All right. Melissa wants to know, how do you get to the screen on the machine to move the design around? Missed that part. Okay. So on my machine, there is a button that says layout. And on there, then I have a move button. So it will depend on what machine you have. On my other smaller Brother machines, when you first load your embroidery design, you kind of have like 2 editing screens you have to go through before you hit the start embroidery. And on one of those editing screens, that's when I usually see a move, a rotate, a resizing option, a merging or add option. So it's all going to depend on your machine on where you will see that. All right. Okay, so Becky says, turning off the trim feature allows you to stop the machine just before it finishes the run and then use the knot feature to tie off. Then pull the hoop, trim the threads close to the fabric. Okay, so you don't, like, I have 2 options on my machine. I have the turn the trim off, and I have also turn cutting off when it's done. So that's what you mean by that, Becky? No, the knot's on the back. Okay. Let's see. All right, I think we're on our last step. I did not turn that feature off. I bet you if I pause it, okay, and I go to trim, and I turn off, I think I got in color trim off and jump stitch trim off. Okay, start, and it's on the last bit. Okay. Nope, it cut it anyway. I must have turned it back on rather than turn it off. Okay. It was off already. Poop. Okay. So it is done. I'm going to pull this out. And go back to my craft table and show you. Okay, craft table. Here we go. All right, so here is the bit that we embroidered today, and I can see, like, you really can't tell where it lines up with the previous hooping on this side. So I can take it off the hoop and look at what I've got so far, and now I only have one more row of hooping to do on this side here, but going across, I think it looks great, and you cannot tell where one hooping ends and the next one begins. So on the back, it's hard to tell because this pattern is so busy, but here's my little knot I got here. I could trim, and then at the top there's nothing because I pulled the bobbin thread through when I started. All right, let me go back here. All right, yay, I'm glad y'all like it. This is really fun. And the point that I want to get across to you is that if you are intimidated by all of this, you can do it, because if I can do this, y'all can do this. And it's a very new aspect of embroidery for me personally, and I am beginning to become obsessed with it, and I think it's going to be so fun. I want to make some quilts for my girls' bedrooms next, and I know that's going to be a super big project to take on, so it's great to start with these smaller pillow options first to see how that goes, and then work up to a baby size quilt, and then maybe a full size quilt if I get brave enough. But it's the tools that I think are the most important is the clear blue tiles. And like I said, you can use the hoops that come with your machine to hoop right where you made your stitches. I think maybe for me as a beginner and not using the magnetic hoops as much, that I'm new to using magnetic hoops, especially with the flatbed machine, that this might be easier for lining things up. But I know that once you play with the magnetic hoops more, you get the hang of hooping, and you won't have to rehoop it 3 times like me. Let's see. Linda says she loves the back of the quilt. Yes, I love this. It's so pretty. So, and you won't be able to tell, but all of this is quilted. All of this huge area right here is already quilted. And it's really, really, really pretty. And so I'm just going to keep working on this here in my craft room this week. And I hope that I could get it done. Maybe, I don't know when's the next time I'm going to see the baby, but I hope that I get it done in the next week or so to finish all the background quilting, and then I'm going to trim around the edges and add binding. Still not great at binding, but I'm getting better. As with everything, the more we do it, the better we get. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Y'all make sure to also check out our friends that joined us today, Becky at Power Tools with Thread and Joanne Banco at Let's Go Sew. They do classes here on Takeover Tuesday on other Tuesdays of the month. and they are excellent, as y'all could tell from just talking with them in the comments today. And we also have our friend Jane Klaus, who's amazing. And every Tuesday, one of us is on here doing a different project. So make sure y'all have y'all YouTube notification bell on so that y'all can join us every Tuesday. And just to remind you of the things that I used today, I have my Brother Stellaire XJ2. It's hard to be partial and say it's my favorite machine, but it literally is probably the machine I use the most in my craft room. I love it. It has so many amazing features, and Andrew and Blaine have some really great pricing and financing available on this machine. The features are amazing and endless. There's still so much on it that I want to do that I haven't played with yet. But definitely call our friends at Sewing Machines Plus if you're interested in this machine. And then the other tools that I used today was the Belle clear blue tiles. That is the essential set. It's going to come with a whole variety of tiles. Comes with beautiful instructions, USB stick with background quilting designs to get you started, and the marking pins and the slap bracelets. Comes with all of that. And they also have that expansion set. If you have a machine with a larger hoop, you can add on to your collection of clear blue tiles by grabbing that. And lastly, this is the Snap Hoop Monster from Designs in Machine Embroidery, or Dime. And that is the magnetic hoop that is available in multiple sizes to fit all different kinds of machines. So that's it for today. Thanks for staying late. I appreciate each and every one of you. I will be live on my YouTube channel next Friday for our February Sip and Stitch. And we're going to be doing a fun St. Patrick's Day project. So come check me out at KarlieBelle.com to get more info of all the videos that I have going on and tutorials that I give. And that's it. I'll see y'all next month. And we have Quilt Fest next month too. So that's going to be really fun. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.